America is the only country that does transgender policy the way we do now. We used to be closer to Sweden.
I'm sorry, you got to be more specific.
Kids
Mm-hmm.
can, what do you call gender affirmation? Okay, have the operation.
Okay, you understand first of all that the biggest, the most prevalent gender affirming surgery is breast removal, tissue removal for cisgender male boys. Okay,
but
so
we're not
understand
talking about that.
Okay, but the reason I'm bringing it up is because if people are okay with people are always saying we don't want young people making those decisions for lifelong decisions when they're still very young. I mean that seems to be what people are.
Well, that's where Europe, where all the liberal countries that we used to be aligned with on this issue a few years ago, we are not. I'm just saying, let's not even get into the details.
Honestly,
let's just get into the fact. Just start with the fact that America does this in a way nobody else does. That doesn't mean, I'm not saying it's necessarily definitely wrong, although I do think it is. But no other country does self-diagnosis by children, no age limit.
That's not what's occurring.
That is what is occurring.
It's not occurring.
And
by the way, the thing you're talking about is a thing called the Dutch Protocol, which obviously started in Holland.
Started in Holland. Yes, I'm familiar.
Yes. Okay. So Europe. So you're saying the U.S. doesn't use the things that Europe does, but they do.
Which they abandoned. They
did not abandon it.
Yeah, they do.
And we can argue about the Cass Review as well. I'm aware of it. Yes, which its conclusions did not match its own data. But okay, we'll talk about that later if you're open to that.
That's too in the weeds.
Okay, but see, that's what I'm saying is the truth is in the weeds, dude. And
unfortunately, for the audience, too in the weeds.
Okay,
I mean, it's and maybe for me at this point, because I don't have the Cass report right in my mind. Many people who are saying, "What is that?" A British woman who is a pediatrician and also was this was her field of study.
There was a big controversy
about
did a
report,
the NHS. Yes, about the NHS transgender care, and unfortunately, the NHS is under a lot of scrutiny for many things because national health care is often very controversial because people have to prioritize very specific care for specific people, and it's hard to do that in a governmental way.
Correct.
But there was a lot of people saying that kids who were going through gender dysphoria were not getting enough care before they were making lifelong decisions, and that's a concern, absolutely. But the report said that they were actually getting enough care, but they as a society were using it as a way to say, we don't want this to even be a possibility for people under 18. And so at any rate.
Right, and that's too far. And like, it's a shame that we can't ever just meet in the middle of what's common sense. Like Trump, I see they're not letting somebody use the bathroom.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just, can we just not do stupid on either side?
But what I'm saying is that parents who have kids who are going through severe gender dysphoria have very limited options to begin with, and they are usually trying to think about the survival of their child, and so limiting what they have access to, and when there actually is an enormous amount of statistical evidence that supported the Dutch protocols. I think it's wrong to limit for the government to limit what they feel is the appropriate medical treatment.
There are cases where it is appropriate, I think.
Okay,
I think this is the standard liberal position. And then there's like the people who won't admit that some of this is social contagion. Some of this is just a TikTok trend that got out of hand.
I don't agree.
And that's okay. And that's what friends are for.
Okay.
To be able to come to it and go, okay, we've elucidated our points enough. People get where we're coming from, and they just, trust me, in this town, everybody, you'll be the big champion. You own Bill Maher because they just want to agree with you. And my take on this, just as like super friend to friend now, is just like the people in this town, they just want to be warriors, social justice warriors. So they're just always looking for a cause. And it's so much more often about them than the cause itself. Not that they're not sincere about stuff, but like what bugs Dave Chappelle so much about the trans thing, I think it's the fact that they want to make it the social justice issue of their generation, and it just doesn't compare to other ones. It's important. It's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great. We live in a time when trans people can be, respected and protected, but you're asking too much often to rewrite like the idea that when someone is born, there is a default setting for humans, male and female. Not everyone is. Now, a real conservative would say, no, everyone is. I would never say that.
But
I think
there are chromosomal spectrums.
There's a default.
There's
a default setting,
hermaphroditism.
but then there's a whole other section, and that's great, and we should protect those people. But don't pretend there isn't also a default setting. And you can't rewrite the world so that every baby is just a jump ball. Oh, it could be anything. No, if it's got a dick, it's probably a boy. And if it's
Probably.
not, we'll deal with that. We'll deal with that in a compassionate way.
Well, yeah,
but we'll also be apprised of the idea that children don't know shit about anything. Yes, sometimes it is obvious, and we should address it that way. But I mean, kids, Christ Almighty! I mean, the idea that I would, as a child, would have had to have dealt with something like this.
Well, again, the people that go through it don't say this is the life I want. No parent wants to be in the midst of those choices. It's terrifying.
Some kids these days actually just do want to be trans.
It's cooler, John.
I don't agree. It's a thing.
Nope.
Oh,
I don't agree.
Come on.
I don't agree with Bill Maher. That's the name of the show tonight.
Well, your eyes are not open to that, I think. There are some kids, especially, why is it like so much more prevalent like here than Indiana?
Well,
are they suppressing it there? Maybe a little.
There's a societal suppression, but it's like left-handedism. Being left-handed was suppressed for for thousands of years amongst human beings. But once it was apparently in the 30s, scientists basically said there's no left-handedness doesn't actually do anything bad.
Right.
Left-handedness shot up. People just stopped training themselves to be right-handed. And this has happened societally before, and that's the closest analog that I can think of it.
Okay, but I think the numbers are faulty in that one. I mean, how many people are left-handed? 15%, something like that.
It went from like 8%
so you think
to
that
15%.
15% of us are born in the wrong body?
I don't know, but I do believe that parents who are dealing with that situation in their child need to be able to make those decisions.
I don't think it's as high as 50%. It is a certain percent, but
statistician in Bill Maher shows
but numbers matter.
No, they do.
Numbers matter.
But what bothers me is that this becomes an issue to demonize people. I mean,
but I'm not demonizing.
I know. I'm not saying you are. But I'm saying the right-wing framing is, and it often starts with danger to your children, danger to your women. The trans people are going in your bathroom, and of course, by the way, these bills that are ahead in Congress right now are to force trans women into men's bathroom, also force trans men into women's bathroom. And these, I don't think Nancy Mace really gets that she's inviting a bunch of trans men into her her bathroom. I don't think she gets that.
It's horrible. It's horrible. And I agree with.
But again, the demonization that they spent hundreds of millions of dollars demonizing trans people was fucking loathsome.
Well,
loathsome.
That's politics, sweetheart.
No,
people,
it's not.
You give them an opening. Excuse me. You give them an opening like
people deserve respect. Yeah, that's the opening.
That's oh God. Deprogrammer, please come in soon.
Okay.
She would
Can we get the deprogrammer?
I
want to deprogram you.
Yeah, well, you're doing a bad.
You do this for a living.
Here's what she would not condemn. She had said when they asked her, "Are you for operations in prisons, taxpayer paid, in prisons for prisoners who want to
transition?"
Okay, she just said, I'll follow the law. She wouldn't say, no, you know what? I said that in 2019. That goes too far.
Well, except that
Maybe she would
was.
have been somewhat in the race if she said something like that. Uh,
But again, this happens,
So
as you
it's,
said,
you know,
the statistical amount of trans people is so small, and this happens on so few occasions, and this is statistically meaningless.
You just said it was
to these people.
15%.
No, but even no, I didn't say that. You said it. You're the.
I said,
I'm talking about left-handedness.
Well, you said it could be.
But I said I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the statistics.
It does, but just from
my point.
From just looking around the world, you don't think 15% is a little high for that?
Yeah, it might be. Again, I'd be guessing.
But see, here's the thing. You're right about a lot of this. What the right does demonize.
Yes, and that's horrifying.
Oh God, it's politics. Of course, you have to assume that the other side is going to use your vulnerable points. But here's what the left demonizes. They would take my conversation with you right now, which is in no way illiberal, and say I'm some sort of bigot, because in the left's view, the far left anyway, any just questioning of this is a mic drop. Oh, you're a bigot. I mean, it happened on CNN recently. Like, I will not sit here and hear someone called a boy, and they're talking about someone who's trans, but it's like, we're so pure. We know everything. That's the given. So any discussion of this is bigotry to begin with. And that's not where we are with this issue.
Well, I'll tell you, I can tell you why they feel like that, if it helps you. They feel like that because when their very capability of being a person is questioned, when just the idea that they exist is questioned.
Agreed.
They are dehumanized, and they say that it's bigotry. Now again, somebody calling you a bigot, you can take offense and get angry at that.
I do.
Okay. But again, you're fine. Somebody called you a bigot. People have called me all kinds of awful things.
Really?
What
do they call you? Who could be mad at you?
People are mad at me. You're mad at me. No, you're not.
I'm not mad at you. I actually admire you for engaging.
Oh, well, happy to.
You didn't have to.
No, I didn't. It's true. What the fuck am I doing here?
It's kind of fun to let it out, isn't it?
Yeah, I have, the trans people in my life feel at this point really frightened,
Who are the trans people in your life, if I may ask?
Well, no, frankly, that's my own business, and
okay,
it's not,
that's fine.
It is. They're in a place where they're personally terrified right now, because not only was this election, was the outrage cycle of this particular election targeted them, but it was accepted, and people accept that it's like, okay, yeah, we dehumanized them. It was politics.
Well, another reason why the Democrats shouldn't have blown it.
Well, again,
so
you can blame them all you want. I
do.
believe again that there is a worldwide reaction to the inflation bump after COVID. Everybody, as I said, Americans hate inflation.
You keep telling yourself that, and you'll lose the next one too. Hey everyone, I'm on Substack now. Check it out and subscribe now at billmaher.substack.com. What could be simpler than that? My name, then .substack.com.